Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe to the channel for regular content on ancient architecture, as well as all the latest news from the world of archaeology. The Turkish Ministry of Culture and Tourism has announced a brand new discovery at the ancient pre-Pottery Neolithic site of Gobekli Tepe, a site with origins going all the way back to 11,500 years ago. As many of you will know from watching my channel, Gobekli Tepe is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, an enormous archaeological complex partly excavated, with oval communal special purpose structures surrounded by more domestic buildings including dwellings. The new discovery was found embedded inside a wall between two of the site's communal structures known as Buildings B and D. The find was unveiled by the Turkish Minister of Culture and Tourism during a ceremony attended by Princess Akiko of Japan. The discovery is a human statue showing a head, torso, arms and the top part of legs, and is probably around 2 to 3 feet in height. From pictures posted on X by NEXT, it looks to be made of limestone, the same stone used for the buildings of Gobekli Tepe. And it's very similar, although not identical, to another statue discovered at the site a number of years ago. The earlier statue showing a human in a similar pose was found complete and lying face down. It has a height of 66 centimeters and portrays a person standing up with arms bent at the elbow and hands coming together at the navel, not unlike the posture on some of the giant T-pillars. It looks as though the person is looking up and is either wearing some kind of cap or the sculpture is portraying hair. The facial features have been eroded, but we can see a beard. The sculpture does not have legs, but instead has some kind of conical peg, and that's so it can be set upright in the ground. This statue was not found as part of a large oval structure, but it was in the surrounding area with mainly domestic structures, which by design are rectangular or sub-rectangular. These buildings are from a younger layer, and they show evidence of repair, rebuilding and other modifications. For example, this large room was at some point in its life subdivided by 2 later walls, creating a large roughly square central room and 2 adjacent smaller chambers. In the eastern chamber, archaeologists discovered a fragment of a stone pillar, and this sculpture was found next to it. The experts believe its deposition was deliberate, and because it was placed next to a pillar fragment inside this small chamber, maybe the small chamber was a place for relics taken from an earlier phase of Gobekli Tepe's life. The details of this earlier find are important, because we see many of the same features on the new discovery, meaning they likely date to a similar time. What I originally said looks to be the tops of legs is likely another conical peg, meaning the statue was probably once embedded in the ground, maybe inside a building. Maybe that's what these circular features we see inside some buildings were for. It looks to have the same kind of cap on its head, or it's the way the ancient people styled hair, and I think we can see 2 eyes and a beard. You can clearly see its arms coming down, bent at the elbow and then coming together at the navel. But the statue was not found standing up, and it wasn't found in a chamber or room as such, but it was actually part of a wall, as we can see in this picture. An early thought is that this is a possible ritual offering, although archaeologists did say this with caution, and that a full study will be needed before any conclusions are made. And I do think that's wise, especially because our understanding of the social complexities, beliefs, rites and rituals of the pre-pottery Neolithic people is still very limited. For example, in Building F at Gobekli Tepe, we find a number of T-shaped pillars that have clearly been reused. Older iconography has been rubbed out and carved over, sometimes more than once, so we don't know with any certainty that stonework from earlier phases was held sacred by later inhabitants, or if it was just viewed as useful stone to be reused. A big chunk of eroded old stone lying around from generations ago would be great for building or fixing a wall, but also, yes, it could be a ritual offering, incorporating relics of ancestors into buildings. We see this at Karahan Tepe, where the heads of old statues were placed into the walls of the buildings, maybe during renovations, builds or rebuilds. Maybe this was done when the person the statue was portraying died. Such statue fragments were sometimes put in pride of place. This large human head has paws of a leopard on either side and was once clearly part of a much larger statue, maybe something like this. But at some point in the life cycle of the large building AD, the head of the sculpture was brought into the building and displayed inside a niche in the wall. Were these human statues of the Pre-Pottery Neolithic showing gods or ancestors, or were they just art? Right now, nobody can say for sure. It's interesting to note the finding of bones at the Pre-Pottery Neolithic site of Sefer Tepe. Sometimes a jumble of bones was deliberately placed into a niche in a wall, showing there was some kind of important relationship between those that had died and the walls of structures. Maybe this sculpture from Gobekli Tepe was of a man that lived there, but there were no human remains to bury. Maybe he didn't come back after a hunt, presumed or known to be dead. Maybe he was attacked by leopards and dragged away. Or maybe the ancient people of Göbekli Tepe practiced excarnation, and his entire body was taken by scavengers, bones and all, and so depositing the sculpture was the only way to honour him. Right now, all ideas are on the table because we simply don't know why this statue was placed into a wall. I do think what is clear from this new statue, like the earlier find and the ones from Karahan Tepe, is that it is in a secondary context, i.e. it wasn't carved and then straight away placed into the wall between two buildings. I think that due to the way it's made, it once stood upright, and was later placed into the wall. Two distinct phases of use, maybe in some sort of ritual, or maybe the stone was simply reused in a more practical way. Göbekli Tepe was occupied and used for hundreds and hundreds of years, and there is plenty of evidence that buildings were rebuilt, renovated, repaired and reimagined. Stone was often reused, and a number of the famous T-shaped pillars are not in their original position. In truth, there is nothing straightforward about the history of Göbekli Tepe, and we learn something with every new discovery. This statue is another part of the puzzle, and with the current level of knowledge, is a puzzle we're still unable to solve. The pictures posted on X by NEXT are absolutely fascinating, to see the moment the statue was excavated and then taken to be preserved and studied, and eventually I expect it to be on full display at Şanlıurfa Museum, along with the incredible painted boar that was discovered in 2023. I have to say I'm very excited to be going back to Göbekli Tepe in a couple of weeks. If you'd like to join me in touring ancient Turkey from October the 3rd, a couple of places are still available. Click the link in the description below. Hopefully we'll find out more information about this incredible new discovery. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.